Indiana basketball defeats Harvard 89-76, but at what cost?
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Everybody, I'm your host, Jacob Goins. Welcome into Locked On Hoosiers, your first listen each and every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. I appreciate you making all of that possible. I appreciate all of you, my everydayers who are here every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off your first ticket purchase with the Game Time app. Indiana defeats Harvard 89-76, but at what cost did Indiana get this win? We're going to break it all down here on the show today. Again, I do appreciate you making it in Locked On Hoosiers your first listen each and every day. Indiana defeats Harvard 89-76 on Sunday in Indianapolis, and this was a pretty good performance, I think. There were obviously some things that we're going to break down here on the show, but for the most part, Indiana played a pretty good basketball game. And when you start looking at the box score, which is what we're going to do here, you look at guys that had career days for Indiana, and you have to start with Kel'el Ware, who was 12 of 13 from the floor, hit 1 of 1 from 3, 3 of 5 from the free throw line. Okay, had 8 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks, and 28 total points. That is by far his best performance in the college game, even at Oregon, and of course here at Indiana. Kel'el Ware had a day, and Indiana realized that Harvard was going to play in that zone the entire time, and they were going to make Indiana shoot the basketball or get pressure inside. Well, Indiana can do that pretty well with Kel'el Ware and Malik Reneau, and that's exactly what they did. And Kel'el Ware had literally a career day with 28 total points. Your second leading scorer? How about this? How about Mackenzie Mgbako? Have a coming out party, young man. You had your best game as a freshman, 7 of 13 from the field, just 1 of 5 from 3. There were a couple times where I think he was too quick to shoot the basketball from out there. But I talk about this all the time, man. His shooting stroke is really, really good. And if he can start to get that honed in a little bit and start making some of those, you better watch out for Mackenzie Mgbako. 3 of 3 from the free throw line. This is my favorite part. 8 rebounds. Had 8 rebounds on the day. Did Mackenzie Mgbako. He was aggressive. He was physical. He had a little urgency to him, a little pep in his step, if you will. And that is what Mackenzie Mgbako has to have when he's rebounding the basketball. 3 of those were offensive. And had 18 total points, which is a career high for him as well. So shout out to those two guys, Kel'el Ware and Mackenzie Mgbako. Your third leading scorer was just 1 point behind that. Was Malik Reneau with 17, who shot 8 of 14 from the field, 1 of 2 from the free throw line. He had 4 rebounds, 5 assists for him. I love seeing that number, and 3 steals. Did have 4 turnovers, though, so not great there. Indiana had 12 as a team. But those 3 guys carried you today. And look, that's okay. That is okay for an Indiana team that scored 89 points and those guys to have the majority of it. I'm fine with that, right? I think those are good things to see. Those are some of my likes about the game. I think Indiana moved the ball offensively pretty well. There were some threes that they took that I wasn't a huge fan of. But overall, I think the offensive game plan was simple. If Harvard's going to sit in the zone, we are going to attack it. And the communication and the relationship between Malik Reneau and Kel'el Ware is really, really special. And they talked about it on the broadcast, and I think that's something that's going to continue to develop all year long. Some of the team stats here quickly. Indiana shot 57% from the field, making 36 field goals. That's really, really good. 3-point percentage continues to struggle for this Hoosiers team. They went 4 of 15, which is almost 27%. So I don't love that because there are going to be teams that they shut down Kel'el, Ware, and Malik Reneau. And can Indiana make shots? We're going to have to find out. But in this game, it was okay. Free throw percentage, nothing crazy. You shot 76%, 13 of 17. I'm fine with that. You won the rebounding battle, which you should, but you did win that, including the offensive rebounding battle. So that's good to see. You assisted on 20 of 36 of your shots. I like that. And you won the turnover battle, 13-12. You had 12. They had 13. So overall, Indiana played a pretty good game. And again, I like the offensive effort. I like the most communication on offense. There were some times where it wasn't what I wanted, but overall, I'm not too upset offensively for Indiana. And I think they took what the defense gave them and they took advantage of it pretty well. Some of the dislikes that I had were some not good time threes. And I talked about that a second ago with Mackenzie and Mgbako. And overall, I'm impressed with the offensive performance. You just got to be able to shoot the basketball a little bit better. But when the team gives you zone, pressure the zone, work inside out. And that's exactly what Indiana did. Dislikes for me, besides the injuries, which we're going to talk about in just a little bit, Indiana still defensively giving up shots, man. Still giving up shots. And here's one thing I liked about the defense in the first half. You held Malik Mack, who is a really, really good player. Malik Mack is a superstar. You could see it. Did you know that he's the leading scoring freshman in the country? Did you know that? In case you missed that when they said it about 18,000 times on the broadcast. The first half, you pretty much shut him down for the first 13, 14 minutes of the game. And then he got his. I mean, he does. He scores a lot of points. But in this game, he still got to 27, which is crazy. You shut him down for the first 13 minutes, and then he went off. 8 of 16 from the floor, 3 of 8 from 3, one of those being the banked-in 3 at the end of the half, which is just a stupid play that, look, a good kid, a good player made a good shot. There's nothing you can do about that. 8 of 10 from the free throw line, so you got to take that into consideration as well. And here's the other part. He was guarded in the second half by Gabe Cupps. And that is nothing against Gabe Cupps. He defended him very, very well. Malik Mack just made some plays. And Malik Mack just showed why he is a threat on the offensive end of the floor. Why was he guarded by Gabe Cupps? Well, because Indiana had some injury problems. And we're going to talk about that coming up in just a second. Overall, I'm impressed with the win. Indiana, they closed it out better than they have recently, right? They closed this game out better than they have all the other lower tiered games that they've played, whether it be Wright State or whatever. So I'm impressed. I am. I think it's a good win. I think it's a nice win. It's a double-digit win. You had a good crowd there in Indianapolis. So overall with the performance, there's a lot more likes than there are dislikes. But some of the major dislikes come on the injury side of things with Xavier Johnson, who did not play in the second half, and Malik Reneau, who was dealing with some back issues there in that second half as well. We'll talk about that here in just a second on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. You should never have to stress about buying tickets and wondering if you're getting a good deal, if you're getting a good seat, if you're getting scammed. You should never have to worry about those things. That's why you need to use the Game Time app. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, then they're the best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Last-minute tickets, flash deals, your zone deals, views from your seat. That's my favorite part. I talk about that a lot. You can literally look at your view from your phone on where you're going to be sitting, whether you're at the theater, whether you're at a basketball game, a football game, whatever it may be. You can see exactly where your seat is going to be. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats. With zone deals, you pick the section and Game Time picks the seats for an average of 18% savings. How cool is that? Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Well, overall, Indiana had a good offensive performance, had a good defensive performance, I think, in the second half. Lots of hustle, lots of good heart, and winning the 50-50 balls. But here's the problem. You've got some major injury concerns when it comes to Indiana basketball. Xavier Johnson went down late in the first half, did not play in the second half. He came back out in warm-up clothes, had some ice on that ankle, and he did not touch the floor for the rest of the second half. How serious is it? I don't know. We're going to find out. But for right now, it's not good. And I think that Indiana should be really, really concerned. I think Indiana fans should be concerned, because if he can't go for any amount of time, you're in really big trouble. I mean, you're in trouble, because I love Gabe Cupps. I think a lot of other fans like Gabe Cupps as well. And he can hold his own to an extent, but he's not Xavier Johnson. You're talking a 6-year experience differential right there. I mean, you're talking about a major step back in offense, defense, leadership, experience, just everything, right? And Gabe Cupps can get there, but he's not there. Remember how I talked about the guards having to play better for a situation just like this? Yeah, here we are. That was like 3 episodes ago. And here we are in the situation where the guards are going to have to step up, because we just don't know what the seriousness is of the injury and how long it could go. And those ankle injuries are always so questionable because they're so easy to re-injure, right? They're so easy to re-aggravate it. I've done it 100 times on my bad ankles playing basketball in the backyard, right? And we're talking about a high-level point guard playing high-level college basketball. So I don't know. And here's the problem. Who steps up, right? Who's going to be that guy now if it's a game that Xavier Johnson can't go, or a week or a month, whatever it may be? And he may not miss any time, right? We may find out that he's able to go and he's fine. Maybe they were just a precautionary thing before they hit a really tough 4-game stretch for Indiana and head coach Mike Woodson. But if he cannot go outside of Gabe Cupps, it's going to have to be CJ Gunn. How about Anthony Leal that got in today, huh? How about him? He got his first minutes in the regular season today for Indiana. You have him. Trey Galloway, which continues to shock me why he just can't shoot the basketball consistently. This guy was a sharpshooter last year, and now he's just gone cold and can't find his stroke. I think he will, and Indiana's giving him chances to do that, but man, got to find some shots, got to find a way to get the shot back. He's making some layups, right? He's getting some putbacks and some nice back doors and stuff like that, but he is a non-factor from behind the arc. He was 0 of 4 today. 0 of 4 in this game against Harvard with just 4 points. So he has to be able to step up. And I think he's going to have to guard the best player on the other team at times. Now, I know he's bigger, which means he's slower, but Gabe Cupps can't do it all. I think Cupps did a wonderful job on Malik Reneau in this game. I know the guy got 27 points. He's good. He's going to get his. Gabe Cupps did a wonderful job on him. But if Xavier Johnson can't go, oh, goodness. I mean, we're in trouble. I'm just going to be real with you. We're in trouble offensively for sure because, again, Xavier Johnson, he gets the offense going. Thankfully, you have your big guys who are playing pretty well, especially in this game with Kel'el, Ware, Malik Reneau, and Mackenzie and Mgbako, if that's a performance we can see repeated moving forward. But you got to have somebody that can get the ball into them, right? You have to have a guy who can run the offense and set plays up for them to get the basketball. Can other guards do that? Sure. But I don't think they can do it like Xavier Johnson can. So we'll be keeping an eye on that, man. We'll be keeping an eye on it because that's a huge injury. And I hope it was just precautionary. I really do. I hope it was. And maybe it was. But if it's not, and he has to miss any amount of time, it's going to be scary. It's going to be really different for this Indiana team. I know he had just the 3 points, but again, he only played the first half, only played the first 19 minutes or 20 minutes. So, yeah, I'm worried. If you can't tell, I'm kind of worried. The other injury that Indiana had was Malik Reneau, who dealt with a back injury, who had to go to the locker room and then come back out. He was able to finish the game, and it didn't look like it got to him very much once he came back out, but back injuries are nothing to mess with, folks. What if this is something that lingers all season long, right? Kind of like the ankle injuries. Back injuries can be re-aggravated pretty easily too, especially for a guy like Malik Reneau, who plays physical basketball. He plays that physical brand of ball where he's inside banging on each other inside, trying to get position and get the basketball and all of that. So that can be re-aggravated. All it takes is an elbow or an inadvertent elbow or a knee or whatever, or even just coming down wrong, right? If you jump up for a rebound or a dunk or something and coming down wrong, you can jack your back all up, man. And I hope it doesn't happen, but you got to be precautionary with him as well. You got to be cautious with Malik Reneau. So how much does he play? How does that change the style of play for Indiana? I don't know. I think that you may have to be a little less reliant on him scoring the basketball and it be like we saw in this game. I think it needs to be more of him getting the ball to Kel'el Ware to go up for the dunks and layups and going for the and ones and stuff like that, which Ware did a fantastic job of, rather than, hey, let's throw this lob to Malik Reneau in transition, or let's get it to Malik Reneau and see if he can back a defender down and get it up and in, which he's got that floater down to a T. I mean, it's just so pretty coming off his hands. But I think here in the next couple of games that this back injury is something that kind of carries with Malik Reneau throughout the year. You cannot just rely on him to go down there and make those plays time in and time out. That is going to be on Kel'el Ware. That's also going to be on Mackenzie and Mgbako. Thankfully, you have some guys who can step up there where you don't have to rely on Malik Reneau to be the guy night in and night out. But on the other situation with Xavier Johnson, that's a loss you cannot have. That is a guy that you have to have on the basketball floor, right? Because there was a time in this game where we saw Mike Woodson go to the backups for Indiana in the first half, and man, it was a disaster. It was a disaster. He went to all 5 backups. The offense stalled. The defense was horrible. And who was the first guy that came in off the bench? It was Xavier Johnson. He came in and said, let's settle down. Let's chill out. And Indiana got back in a rhythm. You cannot afford to not have that in these next 4 games. Maryland, Michigan, Auburn, and Kansas. If you don't have that in these next 4 games, there's a chance you go 0-4. And I hate to say that. I hate to be that way, but that's how big Xavier Johnson is to this team. I don't have to tell you that. You know that. You know how big he is to this team. And Indiana's got to find a way to get him on the floor. And if they can't, you're going to be in big trouble. So you get a nice win over Harvard, 89-76. But unfortunately, you're dealing with some injury problems and some injury scares that could really impact this team moving forward and moving into a tough 4-game stretch for Indiana basketball. Well, coming up, we'll talk about a little football as the season has wrapped up finally for Indiana football, I think is what some fans are saying. And we've seen some major changes already for Indiana football after just a 3-win season and the loss to Purdue in the finale. We'll recap all that and kind of preview what the offseason could look like for Indiana football coming up in just a second. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers Stay Hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is very easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Also want to remind you that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Really, really cool thing that Locked On did. Go check it out. This show appears on there here and there, so be sure you go and check that out. Locked On Sports Today on YouTube. Give them a subscribe. It helps them out a lot. Well, Indiana football season has come to an end, and so has the tenure of Tom Allen as the head football coach. Indiana fired Tom Allen. They have agreed to a pretty heavy buyout of $15 million. I know there's been some reworking there and all that, but bottom line is Indiana's fired Tom Allen. They're paying a buyout, and they are moving on to a new head football coach. You lost to Purdue over the weekend, and a game that you were winning near the end, and then you let Purdue beat you, and you finished 3-9 on the season. And Allen finished 33-49 as Indiana's head football coach. And I know there's a lot of mixed feelings here, right? There's a lot of people that were ready for this to be done, right? Ready for this to be over, ready for this decision to be made. But there were also some people that liked the fight and the fire that Tom Allen brought to Indiana football at times. I think he was a really caring coach. I think a lot of players really liked playing for him. He's one of those, players, coaches that people talk about, right? And I think you could see that a lot of players really liked him. But at the end of the day, you got to win football games, man. You got to win football games. And he just wasn't doing it, especially with a 3-9 season. So, you just got to get results. And here's what Allen had to say. He said, quote, "It has been my greatest professional honor to serve as Indiana's head football coach for the past 7 years. He said, quote, "Representing this university and this state has meant more to me than you can imagine. College football has changed dramatically over the past several years. Some of those changes have been a shock to the conscience of those who support IU football. The time has come to fully embrace those changes, and I pray that IU does just that." That's a shot right there, folks. If you didn't catch what he just said, let me say it for you again. He said, quote, and this is Tom Allen in a statement after he got released, "College football has changed dramatically over the past several years. Some of those changes have been a shock to the conscience of those who support IU football. The time has come to fully embrace those changes, and I pray that IU does just that." What did he mean by that? Well, what are the two biggest changes that college football has seen in the last few years? NIL and transfer portal, right? Name, image, and likeness, and the free agency that is the transfer portal. And those two things have not only changed the game of college football, they have completely rewritten what college football is and changed the shape of what it looks like in college football in 2023 and beyond. And how I read that statement and how I take that statement is Indiana and Indiana supporters are not fully backing that and not fully embracing the changes that are happening right in front of our eyes, that have already happened right in front of our eyes in college football. Whether you believe him or not, that's totally up to you, and I'm going to leave that up to your interpretation, but that's what he's saying right here. He's saying, look, you have to embrace the NIL part of things. If you want Indiana football to be good, you have to pay for it to be good. That's where we are in the game. Whether you like it or not, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. But he's right. He's right. If you want Indiana football to be good, you got to help out. You got to support financially on top of your season tickets, on top of the nachos that you bought at the concession stands. You've got to support through NIL, right? And then whoever the next coach is, you have to use the transfer portal to your advantage to try to catch up, and then you go and recruit using NIL, right? We've seen teams try to build fully through the transfer portal, and it doesn't work all the time. Colorado tried to do it, didn't work. And it could. You don't use the portal to build a program. You use it to catch up, right? We've seen Ole Miss do it with Lane Kiffin, but even he has gone out to get recruits, and hey, he's having 10-win seasons. So shout out to him. But Indiana has to use the portal, and NIL has to support football because it can't just be the basketball, right? It can't. You just can't do it. If you want Indiana football to be good, you got to pay up. And I hate it. I hate it so much because that's not what college football is supposed to be. That's not what college athletics is supposed to be. But guess what? That's where we are. And speaking of the transfer portal, since the end of the year is here and Tom Allen was fired, we saw some news from Indiana football that quarterback Brendan Sorsby has entered the transfer portal. And I think this was not really a shock to anybody. I hate to see him go. I think he was one of the better players on this Indiana offense. I just don't think he had the help around him to be as special as he can be. And I hope the best for him. I really do. I think he got some confidence later in the year, especially when you rattled off a couple of wins here and there. And look, I think he's going to go somewhere and be really special. I do. I think he's going to go somewhere and be a really good starting quarterback. I think he's a Power 5 quarterback. I think he's only going to get better. And if he can have an offensive line that protects him and some guys that can catch the football and a run game that supports him, I think he's going to be really successful. So who does Indiana go and get? Oh, goodness. I don't know. That's a great conversation that we can have over the next few weeks and few months because there's some options out there. There's some options. And that also goes for the head coaching search, as there is a massive carousel going at about 100 miles an hour right now for head coaching searches with some big name jobs that are open. And is Indiana football, is it the sexiest place that a coach would want to come? Maybe not for a Jimbo Fisher or a Urban Meyer type of name, but this is a wonderful opportunity for Indiana to find somebody that's an up-and-comer, right? Find a coordinator that needs a first-time gig, or maybe find a group of 5 coach that's looking for his first Power 5 job that maybe not everybody has seen yet. I think there's some options out there, and I'm excited to talk about those with you as we go. But Indiana's got to find somebody that I think knows Indiana, knows the Midwest, right? And also knows how to use the transfer portal, and then can come in and get the support that he needs from the administration, from the fans, from the money side of things, and all of that wrapped up in one. Indiana football can be good. It can. And you've got the Big Ten, which is getting even tougher starting next year. You've got to find the right guy. You've got to find the right guy at quarterback. You have to find the right guy at head coach. You've got to get some players in there, man, because the Big Ten is not getting any easier. You're adding some really good teams like UCLA and USC and Oregon to this conference that are going to be tough. Those are good football teams. Oregon's competing for the college football playoff. You just saw Michigan and Ohio State do what they did on Saturday. Indiana's got to find the right guy here, but it doesn't have to go out and be a huge name that you pay a boatload of money to. And also, to all college football coaches and all college football programs, quit guaranteeing millions and millions of dollars up front. Quit doing it. You're not helping yourself at all. You're hurting yourself. Look at all these schools, including Indiana, that are paying massive buyouts and paying people to not work. It's unbelievable. Blows my mind. I know it was a disappointing year for Indiana football with just 3 wins and also losing to a not good Purdue team to end the season. But I think things can get better, but it may take a little bit. And you've got to do it right if you're Indiana. You have to do it right. We'll talk about who could be some potential hires as we go on. I don't have time for it today, but I am excited to kind of get a list together. Drop it down below. Who do you want to see hired by Indiana football? If you're on YouTube, drop it in the comments below. Also, would love to read your comments about Indiana basketball. What's the level of concern for Xavier Johnson and Malik Reneau with his injury? Also, in this 4-game stretch coming up, what's your prediction? What is Indiana's record going to be in these next 4 games as they open up Big Ten play and also 2 massive non-conference games as well? Drop all of that and more in the comments below. I'd love to see it. I'll interact with you there as well. And speaking of YouTube, please like and subscribe on the video. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. It helps us out tremendously. We're growing, folks. We're having a lot of fun doing it as we get in to the late November, early December period. There's a lot going on now between football and basketball, so I'm glad you're here. I love you, my everydayers. You are a massive part of why I do this, and I'm really having a good time. So like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're on any of your podcasting platforms, subscribe there if it's an option. Turn on notifications so you know when we go live. We're posting videos and audio every single day, so be sure that you are up to date on the latest Locked On Hoosiers episode. And again, go check out the Locked On Sports Today on YouTube. Subscribe to them as well. It's 24 hours, never stops. It's constant sports coverage from all of our great Locked On hosts. So go check them out as well. And until next time, Hoosier fans, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.